Hi, everybody. Welcome to this is essentially our 0 episode of the show. Listen to ReNerding. I am Matt Rocks. Sitting across from me is Chris Adams. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Matt. How's it going?
Well, it's okay. What we're doing here today with our 0 episode, which is going to kind of be a shorter episode than what we normally do, is kind of get you, the audience, prepped for what you're going to be listening to. So the basic concept of the show is this. When Chris was, 11, 12, he was into, nerdy, geeky things, and for whatever reason, life, sends you down different paths. Chris stepped away from that part of his life and just went on to other things. Never really, I wouldn't say abandoned it, at least not in his heart, but just it wasn't an active part of his life. And so I kind of went through the same thing, except for the leaving it. I always have been steeped in nerddom and geek culture. And Chris and I met when we were, I guess I was in my 30s or 20s, and through our day job at the time, and
At Unnamed used bookstore.
Unnamed used bookstore. Unnamed local used bookstore.
Yes.
And
gold sale at the unnamed local. Bookstore.
That was the weird slogan that played on the radio all the time. And so I was always excited when geeky nerdy stuff would come in, and I would talk to people about it, and I talked to Chris about it. And so my passion for it showed through to Chris, and it certainly has entered the kind of cultural landscape through movies, popularity of comics through TV shows, cartoons, certainly with the internet. It's nerdy, geeky stuff is kind of all over the place now, and Chris found himself kind of being drawn back into it, and so came up with the concept of the show where he would come to me, and I would act as a guide to kind of show him some endpoints into the nerd culture. I don't claim to be an expert or anything like that, but I just want to kind of give him touchstones on things that if you're going to have a discussion with somebody that is already steeped in the culture, that knowing certain things will just make any conversation flow that much easier. So, yeah. What kind of stuff, Chris, if you don't mind sharing with us, what kind of stuff were you into before you kind of stepped away from the nerdiness of nerd?
So, ages, it's 9 to 12-ish for me was the mid-90s. And so this was the age of Image Comics was relatively new. It was only a few years old, where all the creators had left the big two, Marvel and DC, to go start their own comic book house. And this was kind of the era that I got into comic books primarily. And comics was sort of the gateway drug for me into this world. Now, prior to this, I'd always been into, as a little kid, I was into fantasy and sci-fi and horror and that kind of stuff. But when I was made aware that there was a entire culture related to it, I think comics was kind of the intro to me for that. And so this was also the era of AOL. And yes, and so I would get on AOL, and there were these message boards, and on AOL you'd have keywords, and I would go to Wizard Magazine, which RIP still makes me sad that it's gone. And so
it was a pretty great magazine.
It was fantastic, man.
Yeah,
I was going ththrough my comic collection recently. I got it back from my parents, and I had several half issues. Do you remember those? They would have
they would package those in a poly bag magazine.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have an X-Files one, and I had one for a comic book. Do you remember Ash? Not the fire. He was like a firefighter guy.
Yeah, it was Quesada and
God,
I'm blanking on his name, but yeah.
Yeah, it was.
And Quesada ended up being the head of Marvel.
Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah. It was really nuts. But so that was kind of my nerd cred. I mean, there was the comic books, and then I was a rabid Star Wars fan. I still am. But at the time, I was a Star Wars Insider subscriber, and
Nice.
I had the Star Wars encyclopedia that I read religiously.
Okay, no, let me stop you real quick. You said you like subscribe to Star Wars Insider.
Yes.
Was the Star Wars Encyclopedia like the Star Wars Insiderlopedia?
No.
Or was it like completely separate?
Two
things?
separate
Just
things.
like, okay.
Yeah, one was a book, one was a monthly magazine.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and the monthly
And they weren't like connected.
No, the monthly
Okay.
magazine was more. It was more like news about what was going in the Star Wars universe, and so which was really interesting because that was like years before the prequels, and so
Yeah, they weren't really producing new media other than like the books.
I think
guess, the comics.
they were re-releasing them on VHS, like with the additional scenes. I think that's what was going on.
Special editions.
Yes, yeah. And they had like the that gold cassette set. Do you remember that? The
There's like a
VHS
gold
in
box set and
gray.
a silver
I
box
have both.
set. I think the gold was, if I remember right, gold was
The one with-
full screen and silver was widescreen.
Was that? I thought the gold had the bonus scenes, or did they both have the? Like
I think that they were both special editions. Like there was a release right before they released those. There was the VHS was like the last time they're going to release the original Star Wars, the original cuts on VHS, which was wow! It created such a fervor. It was crazy on VHS. And then after that is when they did those, the silver and the gold.
the ones, the original cuts. Those were the ones that the box set, like Empire Strikes Back had like Luke's face on the cover, and then New Hope had Luke's face, and then Empire Strikes Back had like a stormtrooper face on it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so I had
they were basically a black box with like a big half face.
Yes, I had that one, and then I had the gold.
Gotcha.
Was that the full screen or the widescreen?
I think it was full screen, and I say that because I know I had the silver screen at one point.
Okay.
I don't think I ever opened it, so I never watched it. But it's like that era of me seems like I would have been snobby enough to go, I'm only going to get the widescreen.
Yeah.
I want to see every little piece of film.
Yeah, I, in retrospect, wish I would have gotten the widescreen. I probably didn't know the difference and just thought,
You missed out on pixels. My
this
friend.
one's gold like C-3PO. Who I don't really like, but reminds me of him, so I'll get this one. So this is kind of my, my nerd background, if you will, and,
Right.
That really consumed a very formative time in my life. That age group, right? It was like right at the cusp of where childhood is starting to end and adolescence is starting to happen.
I believe the kids today call it puberty.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Puberty?
Yeah.
With like P-O-O?
Yeah, it's when you grow your pubis.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I grew one of those.
You won't stop showing it to me, I swear to God. This is a cry for help. This is what this really is. Pubis behind us. I want to talk a little bit about the sort of things that we're going to be covering in the podcast throughout the coming months and years and decades until we are both dead and then revived and continuing the show again in whatever new format it is, probably holograms, maybe just projected straight into your brain. I don't know.
That would be amazing. Or we might be heads in a jar
will
like
be
Futurama
amazing.
style.
Nice. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Okay, so the kind of stuff we're going to cover, we talked a little bit about, or Chris talked a little bit about being interested in comics. I'm a huge comic nerd, geek. I love comics. So we're talking about comics. We'll talk about movies. We're talking about TV shows. We're talking about live action TV shows. We're going to talk about cartoons, cartoon movies, cartoon TV shows. We're going to talk about books. We've kind of like, I don't know, we're going to get a little more into the format of the show a little bit later on. I want to continue with this list, but the books, I think we're going to treat a little bit different than other things. We want to talk about comedy. There's some nerdy music, video games, and we could tabletop games, things like that. And then just general kind of nerd life, geek culture kind of stuff, like going to conventions, things like that. Being active on message boards, things like that. I do want to say that we are called ReNerding, and for the purpose of our podcast, nerd and geek are going to be an interchangeable word. I may say geek, but please read it as nerd. It's the same thing. Part of the reason that we wanted to do this was that Chris and I, like I said, we met during when we were at a day job, and at the unnamed local bookstore. Used.
Don't forget that it's used.
Unnamed local. Is it unnamed local or is it local unnamed?
Local unnamed used store.
Is it a used unnamed? Is it used local?
I'm trying to think. This is like are they ghost pirates or are they pirate ghosts?
I think we need to have a show meeting about this. Okay, so we'll get back to you and we'll tell you what the final decision on that is. But as you can tell, Chris and I like talking to each other. We have a lot of fun, and then I kind of stayed with the company, and Chris moved on to different positions, different things. I believe you worked with a lizard for a little bit.
Yes.
Okay.
Unnamed insurance company.
And yeah, nobody's gonna be able to figure that out. Why do they call Flo a lizard? And so Chris and I always kind of kept in touch, and this was a great way for us to maintain our friendship and like have a reason to see each other, even though we can't stand to be in the same room. It's just horrible. It's awful.
Which is why we're Skyping, even though we live in the same city.
Skyping across the table from each other.
I'm looking at my screen, not at Matt. I hate his eyes.
That's true. He's not looking me in the eye. It enrages me. So anyways, let's get back to the show. What we're going to be doing every show is at the end of every episode, I am going to be assigning Chris either something to read or to watch or to experience. We invite you to do the homework that I am assigning Chris in the interim. Remember that 5 minutes Matt was saying interim into the mic?
I'm not editing it either.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't edit this. And, please experience it yourself, read it. We'll try and put links when we can to ways that you can experience these things as well, or make suggestions as to where you can find them. Then the next episode, we will kind of deconstruct, talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, just kind of the general importance of it in nerd culture itself, and whether or not it's something that either one of us would want to continue experiencing, or if it's something like, okay, well, I'm glad I got that out of the way. Let's move on to the next thing. We invite you to come along and join us on that.
And one thing that we definitely want to point out is it doesn't matter where you are at in your nerd journey. That's kind of the beauty of the way that our podcast is set up. So maybe you're like me. Maybe you're somebody that you were really into nerd culture at one point in your life and you kind of drifted away. Or maybe you've never been into it. You are like my wife and I recently were talking about a Game of Thrones fan theory, and I had this realization that there are probably lots of people in the world right now sitting there talking about these fictional families riding dragons and inbred kings and queens and all this, and talking about these family dynasties and family lines, and I was like, oh my god, nerd culture is now pop culture.
Yeah, it's in the main culture.
It is the main culture. And so maybe you're somebody that you realize, oh, I would like to read comics, or I'd like to learn more about this type of film or this type of book, or whatever the case might be. Or you're somebody like Matt, who you have been involved in this world for decades now. Wherever you're at, it's the re part of ReNerding is that, it's me coming back into the fold, but it's also, no matter where we're at, ReNerding.
Yeah, re-experiencing the things we really enjoy.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think Matt wrote a great definition for ReNerding is this act of rediscovering your joy in something.
Right.
And even if it's rediscovering it for the first time, which I guess is technically discovering it, but that's okay.
I guess on those episodes, I would suggest listening to it twice to get the re in there.
Yeah, there you go. Just pretend
that
you used to be into it, and then you weren't, and now you are.
Use your imagination.
There you go.
Yes.
Because that's what we love.
We love imagination.
So I'm excited for this journey that we're going to be on. I've already just some of the assignments Matt's assigned to me has already been a lot of fun, and so we look forward to you guys joining in with us. Like Matt said, this is not just for the two of us. This is a communal thing,
right?
And Matt keeps promising me that nerds are really communal people. although I just keep getting beat up. But I'm hoping
it's mostly me doing the beating.
That is accurate.
I think that when we get a little bit deeper into the show, we're going to start going to conventions. At first, I think we're going to try and just go as convention goers. Hopefully, we'll get around to the point where we'll be tabling, and hopefully, we'll get to meet some of you in person, which would be great. And we can re-nerd in person, which would be a lot of fun. But I think that once I get Chris into a comic convention, which you haven't been to in 20 years?
Yeah,
like that?
I went when I was 9 or 10 or something, and I got a bunch of Lady Death comics signed. Which, by the way, why were my parents letting me read Lady Death?
At 9? Yeah, that's...
Yeah, I guess we were progressive.
I guess, yeah, your dad was just like, he likes titties, I don't know, he really likes big titties.
Yeah. I know nothing wrong with that. And death.
And then he looks at your mom and goes,
you know what's ironic about that? My
God.
dad's name is totally Ernie.
oh, evil Ernie, okay. It's like, I don't, did Bert and Ernie used to do the rubber motorboat? I don't...
They might have, I don't know, but I'm sure evil Ernie.
But yeah, once I get Chris back into that setting as an adult and I get to introduce him to a lot of people I know and we'll meet new people, he'll see what a strong community is. Especially we are in North Texas, and the North Texas geek community is very, very tight. Everybody knows everybody. We're all friends. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, I'm super pumped for it. So guys, best way to keep tabs with us here, you should head over to ReNerding.com. It's kind of our centralized hub. From there, you can find site pages on Matt and I's individual projects that we do in addition to ReNerding. We are on Twitter at ReNerding. We are at ReNerding, just the word ReNerding. We have a Facebook page. Do you know the URL for that? Is it?
I think it's just facebook.com/ReNerding, but I'm not 100%. If you put ReNerding into the search, it should come up.
Yeah, we should be there. So yeah, find us on those at those places and keep in touch with us. That'll be the best way. From the ReNerding.com, we are going to start a ReNerders mailing list,
right?
To keep you posted on a, I want to say weekly, but probably bi-weekly basis. We'll see how that goes. That means every other week, right?
Bi-weekly means both every 2 weeks and twice a week. If you want to say specifically every 2 weeks, fortnightly would be more specific.
I like that. Oh my God.
Right?
That.
I heard a British person say it, and I was like, that is awesome.
Yeah, that's fortnightly.
Fortnightly.
Yeah, oh man.
Actually, I think, now that I'm thinking about it, have you seen So I Married an Axe Murderer?
I've never seen it.
Seriously? Oh,
Yeah.
The word fortnightly is in there, but that's definitely something I'm going to add to our assignment list.
Okay, good.
It's
It's Mike Myers, right?
It's Mike Myers. He plays himself, but he plays like the main character, but he also plays his father, who's basically this proto Shrek, because it's this old Scottish guy, and you're gonna laugh your butt off. I said butt instead of ass.
Yeah, I know.
I was like pulled back there at the end.
Yeah, jeez. I mean, sure, my son is in the house, but he's asleep. Yeah. Ass.
Wait, don't.
Ass.
Don't. Anyways.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. We were given the call to action. Sorry about that. Also, we are proudly a part of the Jedi Cole universe of amazing podcasts. So be sure to head over. Is it JediCole.com?
I believe it's JediCole.com. They just redesigned the site recently. You can find links to all of Cole's shows, and as well as, I believe, links to this great thing that he does called the Convention Awareness Project, where he has a list, an ongoing, ever-changing list, ever-growing list of all the comic or geek or nerd shows throughout all of Texas.
Oh, wow.
So if you want to like plan a trip to like wherever, you know that there's going to be something going on in a particular weekend. It's awesome. It's a great resource.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So, guys, also, I know this is episode 0, so it's a little bit different than our normal format, but we would love it if you subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast goodness. I personally love the Overcast app, so you should check that out. And, leave us a review. If you enjoy what we're doing, if you like this process of re-nerding with us, leave a review. That way, the more reviews we get, the higher up we get, will see us, and more people can join in this conversation. Matt, I think we're done. Do you have anything else?
I do have one more thing, and it's probably the most important thing that I can say right now. I have your assignment for the next episode.
Ooh, that is very important.
Since we are releasing these, the first few episodes in October, and October is the month of Halloween. Halloween being my birthday, I do accept presents. Please send them directly to me. We're going to be kind of focusing on horror aspects.
Nice.
So the first assignment is going to be 2 movies. Both of them are Clive Barker properties. Horror writer Clive Barker. The first one is going to be the movie Hellraiser, which is the first movie in the Hellraiser series of movies. And the second one is called Nightbreed. Both of them are based on Clive Barker novels. And so we're going to watch those, and then come back to the next episode. We'll talk about them.
Sounds amazing. So, hey, if you guys, this is for our audience, sorry, man. If you guys have seen these movies, or you haven't seen them and you want to watch them in the intervening time period between now and this next episode, or this is the glorious part about podcasting, is even if this is like 5 years from now, you can listen to this episode and say, I'm going to watch those movies, and then I'm going to listen to them deconstructed. You can do that.
Or you can even start listening to the next episode and say, I don't like that they're talking about this. I'm going to go on the next one. Or, I like what they're saying about this. Before I get too deep, I'm going to put it on pause.
Yes.
And go watch it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's the beautiful part. But either way, shoot us a message on Twitter or at ReNerding.com, wherever. Let us know. We would love to use the hashtag ReNerding. So if you have input, ideas on what you think about these Clive Barker movies, then let us know. Because again, this conversation is between Matt and I, because we're on mics, but it's actually we actually need all of you.
That is how podcasts work. Yeah.
That is how they work. Yeah. But we want to get your voices in on it as well. Yes. So we would invite you guys to come and re-nerd with us.
Yay!
Yay! All right. See y'all on the episode 1.
Later.
See you.